You keep looking up at the screen. That's not good, right?
No, it's perfectly fine to look at the camera. Oh, you mean this screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
very tempting to look at
Okay.
at the screen.
3, 2.
Hi there.
Hi.
Welcome.
I'd like to welcome you all to our tasting today. I'm Lisa Ehrlich. I'm the Vice President of Marketing for Purple Wine. And this is Britt Moore, and he's our winemaker for Purple Wine Company. And I'd also like to thank Charles Communications for helping us get this set up today. We'll be tasting 4 wines over the next hour. The first wine is the Sophisticate 2009 Four Vines. From Amador County. The second wine is Four Vines Biker.
Sophisticate's Sonoma County.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sonoma County, sorry. And then, the Biker from Paso Robles. It's 2009. And then our Maverick, 2010. That's from Amador County. And then finally, a Red Blend, 2010, Cryptic, California appellation. So I'd like to give you first a little bit of background on Purple Wine Company, in case you don't know about us. We were founded by Derek Benham, and he's known in the industry as a real pioneer in the $10 to $20 segment. He started in the wine business after graduating from college at UC Berkeley in 1982. His dad was involved in agricultural real estate and was based in Bakersfield. And he was involved with vineyards and farmland. And he took over a winery that was going under, and Derek talked him into letting him hand over the keys to the winery. And Derek basically, I guess, sold wine out of his car for a while and built this thing up to a relatively large winery successfully, and then they turned around and sold it at the end of the 80s. And then he started over again with another company, and in that next venture, he built up the Blackstone brand to an extremely successful brand, sold that and the entire company, and then he started all over again. And in 2002, he started Purple Wine Company. And you may have seen some of the news, but in, June? We successfully sold the Mark West brand to Constellation, and that was known for its Pinot Noir, which was an excellent value. And this time, all that was sold was Mark West and some related contracts. So we're still very much alive. And
this is the next big thing.
Yeah, we're still very much alive and kicking. And in fact, our company has grown in double digits over the last 10 years, and we were ranked, I think last year, as number 18 by Wine Business Monthly. And even with the sale of Mark West, we're still one of Sonoma Wine Company's largest wineries. So that's great news. And our two key kind of lead brands, Avalon and Four Vines, were just named hot prospects from MarketWatch. And Avalon is a Cabernet-focused brand, and it draws on our winemaking expertise with Cabernet Sauvignon. And most of our brands have a key varietal focus. Four Vines produces really high-quality Zinfandel, and we have an unoaked Chardonnay. And the wines are all very high quality, but still affordable and kind of edgy and irreverent, really fun. And then we have Beck's Riesling from Germany, and which is really easy sipping German Riesling, but it's still very crisp and really great with food, cool packaging. And then now we just launched Cryptic, a red wine, which Britt and I worked very closely on. And it was already in the works prior to the sale of Mark West. This was something we've been planning for a long time. And so our winemaking is all under the direction of winemaker Alex Coast, but the day-to-day winemaking and blending is under Britt's supervision. And a little background on Britt. He's a Midwesterner. He's raised in Wisconsin. Me too. and also in Florida. So I think this is definitely a big red tasting.
Yeah.
Go Badgers. He moved to South Africa with his family when he was a young adult, and he went to college there, and he studied political science and economics, which I did too. So I guess it's like, what else do you do but go into the wine industry when you study?
wine, sell wine.
But he was close to wine country, and he got really interested in the wine business.
Yeah.
Back then.
Some beautiful winelands down there. So.
Ended up going back to decide to go to California to learn more. Went to Fresno State.
Yeah.
Met Alex.
That's where I met Alex.
And they stayed in touch. And when the time was right, Alex brought Britt on board. He also, but prior to that, he worked at Murphy Good. He was at Kendall Jackson working on their Highlands Estate program, their sort of high-end program.
Yeah.
Dry Creek Vineyard. So he knows a lot about Sonoma County fruit vineyards and stuff.
I've been, Sonoma, Napa. I've been based here.
Okay.
18 years now.
So we're gonna get into the wines, and we'll talk a little bit about the sourcing and the production of the wines, which vineyards we're getting these wines from, and what we look for to differentiate these wines, how they're different, what might be similar about them. So.
Okay. If you want to pour yourself the Sophisticate first, the 2009 Sophisticate from Sonoma County. Essentially, we employ a lot of the same winemaking practices on all the Four Vines wines. But the idea is that, there's several great Zinfandel appellations within the state of California. And so that's what we're doing with Four Vines, is kind of emphasizing the different appellations. So we have Sonoma County, and we have an Amador County, a lot of that mountain sort of fruit, and then of course Paso Robles, which is well known for Zins and Big Reds as well. So starting with the Sophisticate, we gave it the name Sophisticate sort of to imply that this is the most elegant wine that we do. When you taste the Biker and Maverick, hopefully you'll find those to be much bigger wines than the Sonoma County wine. The grape sourcing for this is mostly Dry Creek Valley. So you're going to get a lot of the classic sort of blackberry fruit that you get in Dry Creek. And it's not picked quite as ripe. It's not going to have the brash, in your face sort of big alcoholic zin that some other zins out there might. Like I said, a lot of elegant blackberry fruit. It should be relatively smooth.
Tell us about Summers Vineyard, because I guess that's one of our primary vineyard sources.
Yeah. So the sourcing for this, between Alex and myself, we've both been around Sonoma County a long time. So when we took on the Four Vines project, we went to a lot of the growers that we already knew. Like Lisa said earlier, I worked for Murphy Good, which makes large dice Zin, which at the time was Dry Creek Valley, Alexander Valley, and of course worked for Dry Creek Vineyards. And so some of the vineyards that we source all these wines really from, there's a lot of other wineries that are out there that do a vineyard designate. The Summers Vineyard especially, it's tucked way in the hills, Dry Creek Valley. It's way off the main road there. If you've ever been to the Dry Creek Valley, it's nowhere near the main road. You've got to take a little side road and get up into the hills. But there's several wineries that buy Summers fruit, and some of the wineries do a vineyard designate. So Dry Creek Vineyards being one of them. So that's a big portion of the Sophisticate blend, but there's obviously some other sources in there too.
So, but you're pretty familiar with this fruit, so you've worked with
Yeah.
it before. We're gonna sniff and. What am I smelling on the nose? What's the barrel regimen?
For the Sophisticate for the 2009 for this year, again, it's sort of a little bit of French, a little bit of American oak, and a little bit of Hungarian oak. In subsequent years, we're going to try and emphasize the regional differences a little more by changing up the oak regimen a little bit. So the Sophisticate will get a little more French oak. Again, trying to play into the elegance a little bit more. You know, whereas the biker will continue to give it a lot more American oak. I mean, American oak can be cotton candy sweet and kind of flashy, which the biker is, and the Maverick will get a nice mix of all three: Hungarian,
So
French, and American oak.
So you look at, as we evolve, differentiating the winemaking style so that each of, because these areas are pretty distinctive.
Yeah.
And the grapes are really distinctive already, but there's in the past the winemaking style is pretty consistent across the programs.
Yeah, we did the same to every wine, and now we're just sort of emphasizing different things, the differences in the wine.
Okay,
Giving
so
it
it's being
a different oak regimen. Yeah.
I get some warm spices, and I do get a little bit of anise and some of that dark berry, blackberry.
Definitely blackberry, and it gets the it's got the Zen spice in there too.
It's also about 2009. It wasn't an easy year, was it?
No. Especially for cabs and syrahs and late hanging fruit that comes in late. I mean, 2009 started off like a typical year, but then we got dumped with rain sort of early October, like 4 to 6 inches of rain, and across the state. And that pretty much shut down any harvesting that was going on because people had to wait for things to dry out. You couldn't get tractors out in the vineyards because it was too muddy. A lot of the vines soaked up water, and so you had vines that were almost ripe, and here you get all this rain and it just diluted everything. The bricks went back down, the sugar levels went back down. So yeah, if you were picking cab in 2009, it was a really rough year. Fortunately, Zin comes in a little bit earlier, and we got most of our Zin in before the rains.
I was going to say that to me it's pretty ripe. I was going to say 2009.
Yeah.
It seems like this must have come in before the rains came because it's got a lot of fruit to it.
2009
I even get like a
fine for
little
the Zins.
mocha or cocoa on the finish.
Yeah.
So it's nice. It's got like a toastiness. Is that from the barrels?
Probably from the barrels.
Okay. It's really... Okay.
Want to try the Maverick?
What exactly is Zen Spice? Asks our friend from
Zen Spice. It's kind of that licoricey anise that you talked about.
Is that from barrels, or is that kind of just distinctive
No,
to the grape itself?
it's distinctive to the grape too, and it can have a black peppery hint to it too, sort of like Syrah.
I just always think of I'm familiar with Syrah spice, which I think of as white pepper,
Yeah,
and sort of that smokiness that you get. But I don't think of Zen. I guess you do get that. It's more of a warmer spice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny. There's all these descriptors that winemakers use when we're sitting in a blending session or something, and I realize they probably don't mean a whole lot to other people listening in. It's I often will describe a wine as having a Zinberry flavor to it. So what's a Zinberry? I don't know. It tastes like Zinfandel.
Well, something I really like about this wine as well, it's a pretty big, huge wine. It's still pretty balanced, and you don't get that it's as ripe as it is. Or it does have an elegance to it because the acid seems to match.
Elegance and balance are key to the Sophisticate, and that's kind of what we try to emphasize. And then let the fruit flavors come through for themselves.
Great. Should we try Maverick?
Yeah.
Sandra, thank you for your question. That was good. I've heard winemakers talk about Zen Spice. I just sort of never thought about it.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Maverick.
So Maverick. Again, we tried to name the wine according to the profile that we're hoping to get out of the wine. So Maverick, he's out there on his own a little bit. He's kind of a leader, but how many followers he has, we don't know. It's all Amador County fruit, and very much like the Sophisticate, the sourcing. I mean, we're very fortunate to have excellent sourcing, vineyard sourcing for the wine. If you've ever heard of Deaver Vineyard, there's quite a bit of Deaver Zin in the Maverick. Again, quite a few people. Otherwise, there's a lot of wineries that source fruit from Deaver Vineyard, and most of them will do a Deaver Vineyard Designate Zin. And we don't do a Vineyard Designate, but Deaver is probably the backbone to the Maverick, as well as some other excellent. There's a lot of old vineyards up in Amador County.
As Alex and I were talking, and Alex is actually our senior winemakers from that area, and he said that when he was growing up, he actually pulled weeds from some of the vineyards that we're now sourcing when he was in high school.
Yeah.
And they were already old back then. So
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool that he's been able to go back and work with some of these growers that he's known. And I get, compared to the Sophisticate, to me it is definitely wilder and more of that sort of brambly. I know the brambly is another expression that it just has that wild berry taste.
It does, yeah.
So.
And I would say it has bramble as well. What is bramble? It's, if you're walking through the vineyard and you're up in Amador, your vineyards are going to be surrounded by a bunch of oak and madrone trees. It's got that underbrush sort of aromatics to it.
For me, this wine to me is a little bit richer than the Sophisticate, but I could see how you might, it's maybe a little less oaky or a little less tannic than the Sophisticate. I noticed there's a comment that it seems like a little bit lighter than Maverick, but I think it may just be the oak is a little, on the Sophisticate is a little more predominant, and this one tends to have more fruit.
And that was the 2009, and going forward, like I said, we're going to do a little less American oak in the Sophisticate, and more French oak, which has a little more elegance to it, a little more of a background flavor, if you will.
Would you like us to say what these wines are priced at?
Sure,
Should we mention that?
Yeah.
So, remind me, Maverick is 19, and then the Sophisticate and the Biker are 25. And we'll be tasting Cryptic in a little bit, and that is suggested retail 18. So. Oh. Taste.
Yeah.
What else?
I don't know. Some of the weight and softness on the Maverick might actually be the alcohol itself. Alcohol, sometimes if you get a lot of alcohol, it adds a viscosity, almost a sweetness.
There's a sweetness to this one, but it does accentuate this really dark. For me, it's like when you're picking wild raspberries up in Wisconsin in the North Woods, and there's that wild, almost perfumey kind of heady flavor to it.
Yeah.
And this just to me just screams ribs, or a sort of fatty, good juicy meat that would cut right into it.
Broth.
Yeah, good broth. Bratwurst. Oh no, these wines are. Question about, are these wines 100% Zinfandel?
No. Good question. Sophisticate is, it's got Petit Syrah in there too, also from the Summers Vineyard, Summers Petit Syrah. I think there may be one other Sonoma County Petit Syrah vineyard. But the Sophisticate's just Petit Syrah and Zin. The Maverick, because it's older vineyards, we did blend some Petit Syrah in there also, but there's a lot of other stuff blended in there that was, it's more of a field blend sort of vineyard, so, government regulations being what they are, you have to list everything that goes into your wine, and it gets to be a little hard to do. You have to sort of guesstimate how many vines of Carignan or Grenache and some of these other things that are co-planted with the Zin vines out there. So
this has got a lot of Barbera.
And there's Barbera up there too.
Really?
Again, yeah, it's a lot of stuff that was just sort of co-planted with the Zin grapes.
Is the Barbera higher acidity? Is that?
Yeah, it's got a
It's
darker
got a
color
real
and it's
zippiness. Yeah, I get a zippiness, and maybe that's also what you might perceive as a little bit lighter in style because it's got this really high tone fruit to it. High tone, sort of crisp.
Yeah.
So
A
crispness.
little acid's good. It provides structure and of course makes a better food wine too.
Okay. Yeah, let's.
Try the biker.
Sure. We're going to move on to the biker. Are there any other questions about the wines? These two wines?
The addition of Mourvèdre.
Oh yeah.
What is it?
Was the Mourvèdre? I think the Mourvèdre was just more of a field blend. I think
Yeah,
that's definitely
yeah.
a field blend. It's actually planted up there.
What does that add to the wine?
I don't know. It's hard to say. It's you know, it's just another flavor. It's another shade of paint, so to speak, adding to the whole.
And in terms of like, if I was going to compare food pairings with Sophisticate versus Maverick, I would definitely go for something really rich and juicy and succulent on the Maverick. Something that would play up that fruit. So I would look for some kind of a. I've got my little recipe notes, but I definitely would do like the baby back ribs, and with a nice barbecue sauce. But one thing, I think we have a recipe for the barbecue sauce on our website, and I love that recipe because it doesn't have a lot of sugar in it. It's Zin based, which is kind of cool. So I would recommend something like that. And definitely a good steak, or we've actually recommended beef Wellington, which is pretty rich, but that wine would totally cut into it and make a great pair. If any of you are having some fabulous dish right now with one of these wines and it goes well, let us know. And then with Sophisticate, I think the Sophisticate is one of those wines that is pretty versatile, and you could put it into a more classic kind of a pairing with roasted chicken, roasted birds. We were thinking about how with the berry fruit in it might be really nice for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
It's still pretty nice fruit and nice balance.
And can I plug that the Sophisticate was entered in the Sonoma County Harvest Fair and just won a gold?
Yeah, for our 2010. So keep your eyes
peeled
for the
open.
2010.
Yeah.
We are tasting 2009s of two of these wines, and we'll be transitioning fairly soon to 2010. So
Yeah.
the 2009s you'll have to get while you can because they'll be gone pretty soon. So
Meatloaf is a suggested pairing from Sonodora in Virginia.
meatloaf in Virginia. Okay, cool. With us, I would Sophisticate or
Or Sophisticate.
yeah, totally agree. It's a big favorite in my house, and you make a homemade chili sauce on top of it.
On top of meatloaf?
Yeah.
That sounds
Yeah, bake
good.
it with a chili sauce that's not too sweet, and it goes really well with wine. Mashed potatoes, a little gravy, and you're good to go.
I love meatloaf.
I love meatloaf too.
Big in prosciutto as well, from Stockton, California.
Bacon prosciutto.
Fig and prosciutto.
Oh, vegan
Fig
and prosciutto.
Mm.
Oh, nice. I was like, vegan prosciutto doesn't work for me. We are in West County, but that's a little extreme. Do you want to talk about 2010? Let's talk about 2010. We've had a couple really challenging vintages in a row here in Sonoma County. So it wasn't like 2009 was over and we thought, oh, we're in the clear
Yeah.
now. It was another interesting year for winemakers.
2010 was interesting again. Sort of a coolish spring, a little bit windy, so the grape set was not that great. Grape set meaning, every cluster of grapes is actually, every berry is an individual flower. And so a cluster of grapes is a whole bunch of little flowers. And if it rains, or it's too cold, or if the wind is blowing, those little flowers don't pollinate quite correctly, and so you'll end up with a cluster that has uneven grapes. Maybe they'll have big grapes and little grapes. We call them chicks and hens. Or maybe the grapes won't set at all. And when you have varying berries on the cluster, it gets really hard to know when to pick your vineyard, because each cluster will have a different sugar level. They all ripen at a different pace, and so it's really hard to go out there and determine when a vineyard is ready to pick. And that was kind of 2010. And if that wasn't bad enough, we got more rain in 2010. So again, 2010, difficult year, but thank goodness Zin comes in a little bit earlier than a lot of other red grapes. So.
But overall, our
Wasn't
wines
too
in
bad.
purple did really well, and in fact, like
Yeah.
our Avalon Cab's amazing. The 2010, it's not. We didn't have any problems with that being ripe, and our
No.
Zins are really good too. So
Yeah.
it just, what's nice is that we don't consider that we really, up until recently, have had vintages in California. Pretty much every year was the same, and it's nice now that we kind of do have a little bit of
Yeah.
vintage variation and a little more elegant year. Because 2010, I think, because the grapes didn't get quite as ripe, we're seeing a more really good acidity, really good concentration and flavor development without those high alcohols that you sometimes get in the riper vintages.
We are currently, for 2012 vintage, we are probably 60% through, and 2012 is going to be awesome. It's a killer year. It's been perfect so far.
It's one of these amazing vintages.
Yeah.
So we have good quantity, amazing quality, and everybody is so thankful because we were coming off of a lot of several 4 or 5 short vintages in a
Yeah.
row since 2005. We really haven't had as much fruit as we've wanted to, and so everybody's been running on empty now for a little while, and so it's going to be nice because we'll have lots of good wine to sell.
Yeah. I mean, here it is, October 16th, and it's 90 degrees in Sonoma County, so
Yes.
it's perfect.
Yeah, I can't complain. So we have some really good wine and food suggestions. And then a question for you, Britt. Are the barrels deep toast for biker? Raylan, oh no, it's the scrolling fast. But anyway, what kind of toast?
Some of them are. We do, for the most part, it's medium plus. So not quite your dark toast, but yeah, medium plus toast. It gives you that range of flavors, everything from you get your mocha and some of your dark toast down to sort of a lightly toasted bread. But yeah, medium plus toast.
Medium plus toast.
For the most part.
So it's and the irony I've learned is that the more toast, it's actually more mellow in terms of what it does to the wine.
When
So
you
think heavy toast would be like really aggressive, but it actually softens the tannins. I gotta give some of these guys a hand for some of these food and wine pairings. And I just have to say, here I am in Sonoma County, which is really the vegetarian center of the universe, right? And I am the total carnivore. So I don't know, being from Wisconsin, but this is a meat wine. These are wines that are really, really good with meat. Raylan, totally agree with you. Serious meat, rare steak, juicy T-bone or New York strip, lamb and roast pork, somebody said. Benito from Memphis, Tennessee. Lamb and roast pork at Thanksgiving. I agree. Lovely. Well, I'll go to Benito's house for dinner. Teriyaki mushrooms, and it's interesting. You do get a little bit of that soy in the Maverick and in some of these wines, almost like and I get actually in the next wine we're tasting. I even get more of that. So you'll taste that. Our friend from Stockton, in the wine that's coming up, our final Zin, the biker, you'll get that sort of rich, kind of meaty, mushroomy, kind of smoky flavor. Anything else? Chocolate, Raylan, and huge spice. And I don't get a lot of alcohol, even though these are fairly ripe wines, and considering the vintage, that was cool. We got a lot of good ripening.
They shouldn't come across as being hot or have that searing effect on the tongue or anything. Hopefully not.
Okay, so 2010, also cool, long, extended, good flavor development, in the grapes. We're going to taste the biker. And then can you tell us anything about these vineyards? Paso vineyards, we've got some really cool vineyard
Yeah,
sources.
so Sophisticate was Sonoma County, Maverick was Amador County, and Biker is Paso Robles. Paso Robles it gets quite hot down there, so a lot of these wines do get ripe, and they get ripe fast. I would describe the fruit profile as being more of a sort of a brooding plum sort of flavor, and we do pick it when it's plums and not prunes. You get something overripe, and you're going to get pruny, raisiny flavors, which isn't what we're going for. And again, very fortunate to work with excellent vineyards. Let me see. There's a Martinelli vineyard that goes into it, not related to the Martinelli Zin up here in Sonoma County. Ducey Vineyard. A lot of people source fruit from the Duceys down in Paso, and we do too. There's a lot of Ducey fruit in there. Juicy. Preston. I'm trying to think what else. Again, more Petite Syrah. Little Petite Syrah on all the Zins. I think there's some Syrah in here too.
Explain Petite Syrah and why it has such an affinity for Zinfandel?
It's kind of more out of tradition than anything. They've always sort of been planted together and blended together in wines. In Petite Syrah, you get a lot of color. It's a very dark wine. Some Petite Syrahs can be incredibly tannic, so you get a lot of structure going into your Zin, which on its own might not have the tannin or the structure itself. So they kind of complement each other in that way.
I get on this particular wine, to me, it's the closest, most northern Rhone-ish of the three, and it's got a lot more structure and grip, and that sort of edge to it that you would associate with a Syrah too. And so we were talking about that sort of biker, and you think of it as kind of leathery.
Right.
But this is really from the vineyards because it was basically the same winemaking techniques that were used.
Yeah.
Across this. But yeah, I definitely, somebody out there mentioned tobacco, and I think that's what you may be tasting, is that sort of leathery note that I get off of the vineyards in Paso. These are more structured, and of the three wines that we're tasting, to me, this has got the most grip.
I would agree.
The question again about the grapes, one more time. Which grapes are in the biker?
It's mostly Zin. I'd have to guess. I don't really remember. One year blends into the other. It's probably a good 10 to 12% Petite Syrah, and then there's other little things in there. There might be 5 to 7% of Syrah as well. What else? Biker. Oh, more Mourvedre. A little bit of Grenache.
But I think those are more of the field blends again.
Yeah.
So, and tell us, I mean, in terms of the vineyard sourcing, are these vineyards that have been connected to Four Vines for a long time? Are these...
Yeah. It's, for the most part, right from the beginning. The original winemaker, Christian, had some nice contacts and went out and sought some great vineyards. So he did some great sourcing. And then when Alex and I took over the Four Vines project, again, between the two of us, we knew a lot of other people in the industry too. And so, and we hadn't ever really, Purple Wine Company hadn't ever really focused on the Zin before. So it was nice to call some of these growers that we know that do Zinfandel and say, hey, can we get a load of Zin? And so that's good sourcing.
I think it's kind of cool to have these 3 different wine programs too, where you can really showcase the style, the 3 different appellations. So you've got Sophisticate, which is this more elegant style and with finer tannins. You've got the brambly fruit and the little wild side on Maverick.
Yeah.
And then to me, the muscular, sort of bold biker. And I think it's going to be fun as we work together over the years to kind of see how these little guys evolve and develop their personalities, but they each have a distinctive personality and flavor. In terms of what I'd pair this wine with, what do you think? In terms of
More meat.
for me, this would be more what I would typically pair a big, bold Northern Rhone type wine. So it would be more of a lamb ragu with pasta. I cook a lot of Italian, Northern Italian, wild mushroom risotto with this. Just cutting into it would be so totally delicious. Anybody, any ideas out there? Love to see.
What kind of marinade or crust would you use with a lamb, given the spicy notes on the wine?
You know, all this talk of lamb. I'm having lamb this weekend.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Well, I do a lot of roast like a lamb, and for me, because I spend a lot of time in southern France, I would always where I always go is the sort of that thyme, rosemary, sometimes mint, fresh mint, that type of thing. And I'm not a huge marinator, but yeah, I would marinate in some of the wine, and just stud it with garlic and off to the races.
Yeah.
Some roasted
short ribs.
Yeah, I mean they mentioned crust. I like doing a rub on the meat more than a marinade sometimes.
We did get a question about the toast on the barrel and the types of barrels. Could speak a little to that.
Types of barrels? Sure. The Biker we're leaning towards more of the American oak because it is bigger, it is flashier, and wine can handle that. But we also use French and American oak, French and Hungarian oak in there too. And Hungarian oak tends to be similar to the French, but it's, I don't know, a little more spicy, maybe a little smoky, and the French oak tends to be a little more vanillin. There are probably 6 different cooperages that we buy barrels from, and then we give the wines a mix of the barrels. Again, trying to spread out the flavors, get a spectrum of different things, and hopefully they all sort of complement each other.
A lot of folks are speaking to the balance of the wine.
Yeah,
It's very
really
balanced.
nice balance.
Yeah.
Even though it's huge, this is a big
Yeah.
burly wine, but it's still got some.
Yeah.
I have to talk to Whiny Mom about her lamb stew. So I cook. It's funny. My kids always laugh because we eat lamb a lot because we buy all our meat from a local farmer here, which is pretty cool. We drive by the little field where all the little. It's really good. It's actually just down the street. And it's locally sourced, so we eat less meat than we used to, but we eat this.
Eat better meat.
Yeah, better. And so I make lamb stew a lot, frequently. It's one of our favorite dishes. And I don't do the Irish stew. I have to try, but I make mine with generally. I actually tend to use a white wine base, not a red. And I'm just thinking about this. I would definitely use a red in if I was going to do the lamb stew with this. And so I'm going to modify it and try it with this Biker, but I think it's going to be really good. I just use carrots, I use celery, and definitely rosemary, fresh herbs. Trying to think of what else, but it's one of my family's favorite things. So.
Do you suggest decanting the wine? We had a few folks that said that they did that in advance.
It does open up a little bit. Definitely.
It's always interesting
if
to see.
you're patient enough to decant it and let it sit around without drinking.
Well, and you can always try one of those Venturi devices, if any of you have that. Try and compare them side by side and see. Not all wines benefit from decanting, but sometimes they do. You can just pour some
I can't tell you how many times I've had a bottle of wine, and the last glass you have ends up being the best wine. It's like, because it takes a whole bottle of wine for it to finally open up, and there you are in your last glass, and it's like, if I'd known the potential, I would have decanted.
What about the wine where you actually, and some people tell me I'm crazy because we often actually have some wine left over. We don't drink the whole bottle. We're getting too old for that. But anyway, you know how you have the last bit, and then the next day you come back and you're cooking dinner, and you go back and you drink it, and you're like, oh my God, this thing is that. But that's to me always a mark of a really good wine.
That's true.
Yeah. And I've had
Because there's enough wines that you go back a day later and it's like, yeah, I don't know, it's kind of lost some.
slow roasted lamb shanks. Awesome. I actually meant you actually cook them with a little bacon or turkey bacon in there, and with the smokiness, it would be excellent. Recommend, definitely. Somebody.
How long should we age these wines?
Not too long. We try to make the wines accessible earlier. But you could probably hold on to them 5, 6, 7 years and have them be absolutely fine. We like to emphasize the fruit, so you're going to lose a little bit of fruit over time. What you gain in the tannins rounding out and everything else from aging a wine, you might lose a little bit of that forward fruitiness too. So you can hang on to it for a few years, but rather drink it now.
I'm always one for immediate gratification.
Yeah.
I
I know. Want to try the Cryptic?
Yep.
All right.
So, one of the reasons that Cryptic fits in really well with our theme today is because the primary component of the Cryptic is our is Zinfandel, and the Zin is a combination of some of our. Well, actually, it's a main component. But anyway, we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah.
I'll let you.
You want to talk about the concept of Cryptic, and then I'll get into the winemaking?
Sure. One thing that I've always loved about red blends in general is that they give us the most freedom, both working with the winemakers and just in terms of where we go with the wine. For our winery, we have the most blending freedom. We can kind of create it, and we've had this idea of wanting to do a blend for a while. So that was part of the inspiration for it. But the Cryptic, the idea with Cryptic was the name itself is that the blending's kind of a mystery. And it always is. You never quite know what you're going to get until you start working on the wines and seeing how it all works out.
And I was telling Lisa earlier, as we were sort of sitting down prepping for this, is that blending is actually my second favorite part of winemaking. Walking around the vineyards and looking at vineyards and grapes and stuff would be first. But I definitely love the blending part, and Cryptic really is a blended wine. We didn't pick any vineyards and ferment any lots separately with the Cryptic in mind. What we did is when Lisa came to us and said, okay, we want to do this wine and I've got this concept for it. Here's how I'd like to taste, and I think she had a select sort of market in mind. Then Alex and I could go to all the different wine lots we had and start picking things out and putting them together like a little puzzle.
Yeah, it was like, make it velvety. I want something totally delicious and yummy but at the same time, because we were seeing that there's this huge excitement in red blends out there. But a lot of the red blends are inexpensive, which isn't a bad thing, but they're really tutti frutti and they're not that serious. And so you want a wine, and I kind of think of this as like a pair of dress jeans. You've got your jeans for every day. There's red blends that you could have with a burger, and they're fine. But when you want something a little bit better, there wasn't a whole lot out there. And so we were noticing that, this explosion of red blends, and a lot of them were inexpensive, but there wasn't a lot of more sophisticated options that you could drink that were still affordable. There were some expensive sort of designer blends out there, but there was not really anything in that $15 to $20 price point that would just be a little bit better. So we thought, let's see what we can do from some of our very best wines from these different areas.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the ideas. And then to have something that was kind of an affordable luxury. And we wanted the wine inside to be something special. So it's over 40 different vineyards and French oak and some American Hungarian, and also, but the package itself was like super fun to work on, and it's silkscreen, and there's like 24 karat gold accents, and there's little hidden messages. We had fun with it too. So if you hold it up to the mirror, it's on the front. There's a little saying and that you can read that's written backwards, and we scrambled the varietals on the back label just kind of for fun. I mean, it's this kind of thing that maybe if you're at a party and you look back there, you're like, whoa, what's going on there? But the idea was really to